mitigation, these are some of the things that we perform vulnerability and risk assessments, and of course this list can be provided to you. I was not there to read all of this. Branch as well as the regional, state, and local agencies. There has been a proven thing that there's a need for our and others to be in the field working with these community-based organizations, with corporate foundations, and certainly the education community. At present, we're working with North Carolina Central University.
But I'm going to cut straight to the chase here. We have 3 minutes, we're going to make it count. One of the things that as we came down, Bed-Stuy Ambulance Corps, Barry Crumbley from Black Farmers Association, and myself, is that we did not want this opportunity to pass for us to do something direct and proactive. And that is, we cannot have all this talent, right, together in one room and to deal with strictly hypotheticals. We have to do something concrete. And we have to do something right away, because these disasters, this is a time-sensitive thing. I think that what we've got to understand is we're going to be hit with another disaster. It could happen tomorrow. And the fact of the matter is, we have to develop an infrastructure. We've got to do it. We've got to do it quickly. And so I wanted to drop some news on you, and I wanted to share some information in regards to something that's happening as we speak. Now, one of the sectors that is often forgotten in terms of disasters and what happens during the disasters is the younger folks. The younger people suffer the most, for the most part, and especially the younger people in African American communities. Now, we all know that there is a pipeline to the younger people within the African American community. Do you all know what that is? No. Come on, y'all know. Rap music, hip hop. Now, I've been in communications with one of the founding fathers of hip hop, whom I've been working with for the past year. His name is Africa Bambaataa. Anybody familiar with Africa Bambaataa? Is everybody familiar with Africa Bambaataa? Okay. Because of this organization, because of this gathering, that Africa Bambaataa and a number of other hip-hop artists have decided to cut straight to the chase. And Africa Bambaataa has decided to place $5,000, and maybe more, but right now $5,000 for the development of what is called an incident command center. Here in New York City, we're going to build an incident command center for the hip-hop community and the general community in New York City, which is an incredible thing. Are you familiar with an incident command center? Is everybody familiar with that? Okay. Now, what I'm asking you, and what we're asking you, Brother Rudolph here from Save a Life and Bed-Stuy, is that we've got to fall in and help this effort out in any way, means, shape, or form. Now, we have a sister here who's a civil engineer. We need more engineers to help this out. We have some people here that are psychiatrists and psychologists who can deal with the aspects of the development of, let's say, structuring a new behavioral paradigm. We've got everybody here that we need to make something happen, but we've got to make something happen. If we can develop an incident command center, which I know that we can, in the Bronx, then I know that we can take that incident command center and clone it anywhere. With Sister Cloud, the first black fire chief, who's got that situation down there. We can do this any place in the United States. And it's just like what the pastor just said. This is something that we can do ourselves. We do not need any governmental intervention. We don't need anyone to do this but ourselves. Now, if Africa Bambaataa and this coalition of hip-hop artists, ranging from him and the Public Enemy, Chuck D, I'm sure you're familiar with the Public Enemy, and even the people like Immortal Technique, who is a younger, extremely revolutionary rapper, who's willing to get involved in this, then I know that all of us can work together and start to build incident command centers where we can have a platform of operations, just like FEMA does. And not only would it be a platform of operations, it would be a wonderful new platform of operations, because we're going to use cutting-edge technology, such as, it's not new, but it's something that needs to be used more frequently. That is the geodesic structure. For those of you who aren't familiar with what geodomes are, look up Buckminster Fuller on the internet. You'll find out what it is. These are structures that are resistant to disasters. We're talking about building structures that cost very little, that can withstand all sorts of emergencies and disasters. So this is something that I want you all to fall in if you can. I'm going to give you an email address, DNOMOS, DNOMMOS, at readyforanything.org. That's DNOMOS at readyforanything.org. Anyone who can help this effort, please contact us immediately, and let's get started with building a framework for an operational infrastructure that our communities can use, and not only our communities, because once we get an operational infrastructure for us, we can do it overseas, we can do it anywhere. Let's work to become self-reliant and independent. Brother Rudolph has something to say too.
Just very quickly, on that note, we're building the incident command centers, which we very much need, but we also need the training in the community, grassroots, on the ground, block by block, house by house, church by church. The faith-based institutions have the facilities already. They already get the people. We need to go in there and get the time from them to speak to the people straight up about what they need to do. The vulnerabilities for disaster preparedness start with the individual. If each individual in the family and in the community can be self-sustaining, then the community will not be as devastated as it is. But the thing is, we have to get the message to them. We need a forum to get it to them, and the churches, the faith-based institutions, are the best places. Our history shows that's where it's always come from. That's where all the meetings came from. So we need to research history and use what worked before for our fathers and our grandfathers and use it in this modern day and time. Just use the modern techniques of social media and videography and the text messaging, and get the children involved so that they can deal with their peers, we can deal with ours, and together overnight the family can be educated and the community can be saved. Readyforanything.org is one website to go to, and then also here's one of the most well-written preparedness manuals that is out here. Preparedness Now, written on such a level that even a 6th grade child can read it and understand exactly what it's saying. The family can sit down together, read it page by page, and be brought up to speed on what they need to do for themselves right now. We can do it. Everybody here, you're here because you're concerned. Well, let's not just leave it with concern. Now let's put it to action. Let's prove that we can do for ourselves, and then once we start the ball rolling, I guarantee you, everybody will come help, but you have to get the ball rolling. Thank you. Yes, sir.
We want to have time. If you leave it open, but we need to hear from you. And that's what be here.
As a matter of fact, I was just checking before I leave it today. Yes, sir.
Are you in New York?
I'm trying to
I'm Steve Thompson for On the Spot. We're here in Washington, D.C. after the FEMA conference. And we're talking to Brother Rudy and the summary of his impressions of the conference and its effectiveness. Rudy, what do you think? Your summary of the FEMA conference?
Well, I think it was good that this many black people came together
Right.
with such a wide array of skills and technical knowledge.
Right.
But I think we still miss the mark as a whole because we still seem to be waiting for some savior on a white horse to ride into our neighborhoods and save us from the boogeyman.
Right.
I don't know what it's going to take. Me, myself, and my constituents, we are all of the same mind that we really don't need anyone to come in to save us. We can do it ourselves. What we need resources.
Right. But you're proactive on what you need to do.
Oh yes, yeah, without a doubt. Okay. But I think that we can, and we have the ability, and we will,
right,
make the best of this situation. In that those of like mind, we will pull away from this, and we will organize ourselves to do what we need to do for ourselves.
Right.
And unfortunately, the others will be on the sideline watching.
Okay.
As usual.
As usual. All right. Brother Rudy, summary. The FEMA conference. Thanks a lot, sir.
Thank you.
All right. Steve Thompson, we're here with Brother Aton. Brother Aton, your impressions of the African American FEMA conference. Where's your perspective on it?
Well, I think it was a good conference. I think that it was great that that we came together in that in that place to try to develop something. Although in this case, I think it's unusual because I have a different position on what I usually, you'd think that the government would be the foil in that respect. I think in this case, a lot of us came there with I suppose a preconceived notion that maybe FEMA is supposed to do a lot more for our community than it should, or than it was what they think it's supposed to do.
Right.
And in actuality, we were the ones who were a little bit off balance because we were looking to FEMA to kind of like do the things for us that we can do for ourselves.
Right.
And I think that we have to recognize that protecting ourselves is primarily our own responsibility. It doesn't belong to somebody else. And we've got to recognize that we have to do for self at this point. And FEMA was very clear on where they are, and what their position is, and how they're going to help us out, and what they can do and what they can't. And a lot of us down there kind of are still in that position where it's, what can they do for us? So in the respect that I'm glad that there's an open dialogue that is different than what happened with the unfortunate situation in Katrina with Michael Brown, and you're doing a good job, Brownie, kind of a thing. I think that the director, Fugate, is a really good guy. I think that he's got boots on the ground experience. I think that because he was an EMT and a paramedic and a firefighter, that he's got a lot of practical experience that he's applying towards his job. But on the other hand, I think that it's up to us to really kind of like get rid of these preconceived notions as to what FEMA is and what it's supposed to do, and for us to recognize what we got to start doing for self right now, because another disaster is on the way, and if we don't get ourselves together soon, we're not going to be ready to deal with it.
Okay. Thanks for your impression, sir.
Thanks a lot.
All right. Steve Thompson here. We're talking about the impressions of the African American FEMA conference. I'm here with Brother Barry. Brother Barry, tell us your impressions of the conference and the effect that you think it had or didn't have.
In summation, I want to start like this. The team that came down, myself, Brother Rudolph Muhammad from the Bedford-Stuyvesant Volunteer Ambulance Corps, and Brother Aton Edwards from the International Preparedness Network, we've been working together, and collectively we have about 80+ years of experience in preparedness on one level or another. My area primarily at this point in my life is focusing on the whole agricultural and land tenure issues.
Right.
A landless people is a helpless people. And no matter how many command centers or incident command centers that we want to build, and you got to put them somewhere.
Right.
Preparedness goes far beyond having some batteries and a flashlight. One of the things that I wanted to ask the folks at the conference today was, how much land do you have?
Right.
Has anyone even thought of pre-arrangements with their funeral directors just to purchase their cemetery plots.
Right.
You know, so those are the questions that I put out there to folks to let the light bulb go off, if you will.
Gotcha.
You know,
no short-term thinking.
no, no, not at all,
Right.
not at all. So, like I said, we all work in our areas of expertise. There's some mechanisms that are already in place that Brother Eitan has instituted, and it has brought myself and Brother Rudolph in on, as well as we have a large backing of you know, potential supporters, if you will. After this conference, we are now going to implement them full force.
Okay.
We're going to build incident command centers. 2 of them will be in New York. Those will be the first 2, and then we'll implement them as we joint venture with other organizations and individuals, for that matter, that were at this conference, and others. FEMA made it very clear on day 1 that they are a support organization to municipalities. There are many folks that have come down here that thought that they can partner, if you will, and I kept hearing that word, partner with FEMA. That's not going to happen, not at this point in time. The protocol is not set up that way right now. It may happen in the future, but in the meantime, things are going to happen. There are going to be more Princevilles. There are going to be more Ritas, and you know, all these other disasters that we're going to need to be able to deal with. And once again, if you notice, I started off by saying, you know, about land tenure issues.
Right.
See, disasters are you have to put them in perspective, and disasters are relative.
Right.
Your disaster might not be my disaster.
True.
Because I've put things in place where whatever affects you in a negative way, it rolls right off of my back.
Right.
You know, and so that's how we need to prepare our communities.
Right.
Let this truck go by. So we've come down here to Washington, D.C., and we listened and we spoke. We've been doing all along, but now we're going to do it with the people that were here that want to do it with us.
Right.
That came to this conference.
And essentially wait for no one.
Oh no, we haven't been waiting at all. Actually,
Right.
I mean, the Bedford-Stuyvesant Volunteer Ambulance Corps just had their 25th, I believe it was, or either 24th anniversary.
Right.
Like I said, Brother Eitan with the IPN, International Preparedness Network, has been doing this for a long time. And I'm here once again representing the Black Farmers and Agriculturists Association, headquartered in Tillery, North Carolina,
Right.
to bring another dynamic
Right.
to it. You know, preparedness is multifaceted.
Right.
So, you know, we got to get a land, we got to grow our own food.
Right.
And that's what I do, and we do it well.
Okay.
Been trained by some of the best minds. I sit at the feet of and under the wings of many, many good agriculturalists. And they're just showing me the way, and it's just time to show others, young and old.
Okay. Well, I appreciate the insight. And
Yes, sir.
you know what? We've taken a lot away from the conference, and these are some amazing brothers that really, really have a plan. And they're not really waiting for anybody. So Stephen Thompson for On the Spot in Washington, D.C. from the FEMA conference, the African American FEMA conference.